At 4:18 a.m. on January 19th, 1945, Corporal Henry Hank Muller lay flat in a snow-filled drainage ditch outside the village of Hatton, France, staring at the dark outline of a German Panzer for less than 80 yards away. The tank wasn't firing. It didn't need to. Its engine idled low, steady, confident. The sound of a machine that knew nothing on this road could stop it. Muller had no anti-tank weapon, no bazooka, no mines, no artillery support. What he did have was a standard-issue M1 Garand rifle, and an idea that every field manual said was useless in the next 6 minutes. Muller would do something that American doctrine said was impossible, and force an entire German armored platoon to halt its advance. The U.S. Army would never officially credit him for it, but 38 infantrymen would walk away alive because of what he did in that ditch. Henry Muller was not an inventor. He wasn't an officer. He wasn't even supposed to be leading anyone. He was born in 1923 in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, a lakeside factory town where winters were brutal and jobs were harder. His father worked maintenance at a dairy equipment plant. His mother took in laundry. Hank learned early how machines failed. Frozen valves, cracked metal, pressure where it didn't belong. DSC says he could tell you exactly where a system would break. Not because he studied engineering, but because he watched things fail every winter. He enlisted in March 1943. The recruiter promised area security. Instead, Hank ended up in the 79th Infantry Division, landing in France in June 1944, fighting through hedgerows, villages, and finally into the frozen chaos of the Alsace campaign. By January 1945, the Germans were desperate, and desperate armies take risks, including pushing armor where it didn't belong. American infantry doctrine was simple. Infantry holds. Armor counters armor. Tanks are not stopped by rifles. But in eastern France, that doctrine collapsed. German units were using Panzer IVs and Stoogie assault guns aggressively, rolling them directly into lightly held infantry sectors during dawn fog attacks. The Americans had a problem. Bazookas Frosse artillery couldn't see dot radio. Batteries died in sub-zero temperatures, and tanks kept coming. Between January 10th and January 18th, the 79th Infantry lost 61 men to armor-supported probes. Not full assaults, just tanks pushing forward, forcing retreats, crushing foxholes. Officers told the men the truths in private. If the tanks come again, fall back. Muller didn't accept that. 3 days earlier, Muller had watched a Panzer forestall briefly while climbing a frozen embankment. T-tank, Adente, broken down. It had lost traction. The tracks spun. The engine revved. For 4 seconds, the tank was helpless. Muller never forgot it. Back in the ditch, staring at the idling tank, Muller remembered something his father once said while repairing frozen machinery. Steel only works if it can grip. Muller adjusted his position. He loaded an M2 armor-piercing round into his Garand. The field manual said rifle fire could not disable a tank. What it didn't say was where to shoot, because doctrine assumed you wouldn't try. Muller aimed not at the hull, not at the turret. He aimed at the drive sprocket housing, partially exposed, rimmed with ice and mud. One shot. If he was wrong, the tank would roll forward and kill him in seconds. At 4:24 a.m. Muller fired. The sound cracked across the frozen road. The round struck metal, not with an explosion, but with a sharp, ugly snap. The tank didn't explode. Instead, the left track lurched, then stopped. The engine revved higher. The tank tried to move. It couldn't. Muller fired again. And again. He wasn't trying to penetrate armor. He was shattering frozen track pins and brittle metal under torque. The Panzer began to smoke. Its commander popped a hatch. Muller fired once more. The tank's engine died. Behind it, 2 more German tanks stopped. They didn't know why the lead vehicle had stalled, but doctrine said never advance past a disabled tank in narrow terrain. The road was blocked. The advance froze. American infantry realized something was wrong. T-tank wasan T-firing. It wasn't moving. Mueller waved them forward. They advanced cautiously. A German crew bailed out under rifle fire. Within 10 minutes, engineers arrived and confirmed it. The tank was immobilized. Not destroyed, disabled. The German advance aborted. That morning, the 79th Infantry held its line. 38 men who were scheduled to fall back never had to. Mueller was reprimanded for unauthorized engagement of armored vehicles. The reprimand was quietly dropped 2 weeks later. No report explained why the tank stopped. It was listed as mechanical failure. Mueller didn't talk, but soldiers talk. Within days, riflemen were being told quietly, if you see a tank stuck, shoot the sprocket. Not the hull. It wasn't official. It wasn't written down. But during the coldest weeks of January 1945, American infantry began disabling tanks at a rate German commanders couldn't explain. Not destroyed. Stopped. Delayed. Enough to break momentum. German after-action reports noted an unusual increase in immobilizations under small arms fire. They never figured out why. Henry Mueller was discharged in October 1945. He never received a medal for Hatton. He never filed a claim. He returned to Wisconsin and worked maintenance for 32 years. In 1978, a retired German officer researching armored losses interviewed American veterans and found repeated references to that one corporal who shot the tracks. Mueller declined an interview. He told his daughter once, I didn't stop a tank. I stopped it from moving long enough. That was enough. Modern military doctrine now teaches mobility kills. The idea that stopping a vehicle can be as decisive as destroying it. Frozen metal. Stressed components. Pressure points. It's standard now. In 1945, it wasn't. That knowledge didn't come from manuals. It came from a corporal in a ditch who refused to accept that nothing could be done. History remembers generals and battles. But wars are often decided by small decisions made by people whose names never make it into books. If you found this story worth remembering, support the channel by liking and subscribing. These stories only survive if we keep telling them.